thinking about watching the US election and thinking about its consequences for the continent, firstly has just brought home the reality of how difficult democracy is. Democracy is hard work. And I think that with with the third wave of democracy in the 90s and all these countries democratizing in Eastern Europe and in Africa, there was this sense that, well, democracy is quite easy to do. It's the obvious way of governance. And watching what's been happening in the United States as this model, that's been held up for so long for countries to achieve accountable and responsive and representative governance, I think it's been very clear to see that democracy is difficult. Having free and fair elections, maintaining the rule of law, and ensuring freedom, which are these ideals that I certainly grew up with as being obviously American, is hard. And the US has proven in the past 4 years how difficult it is to do that. And I think that that's been particularly insightful for African states to see, because so many African countries who were advised by all these democracy institutes from the US modeled their democratic systems on the United States in the 1990s. And all of these elements that exist, I think it's Leonardo who is talking about Brazil, all these elements that Africans have been told are important for free and fair elections, having a universal voters roll, having centralized elections management, having uniform rules and regulations, don't exist in the US. And so much of what we have been trained to see as democracy doesn't exist in America. And so this model democracy has been exposed as being incredibly flawed and incredibly fallible. And I see that as an opportunity that Africans need to take to say, well, actually, is the American democratic system, our Western liberal democratic systems, actually appropriate for our contexts? Because while the US election was going on, we saw all sorts of tensions in Cameroon, Tanzania. Tanzania had its election with its president winning 99% of the vote. We saw the opposition leaders being arrested in Uganda, in Zimbabwe. And so, over the past 20 years, there's also been a sense in the continent that democracy doesn't lead to positive socioeconomic outcomes. People feel more alienated in democracy sometimes than they did under authoritarian leaders. And elections seem to fuel more conflicts than they resolve. And so I see the US election as an opportunity to rethink what we mean by democracy in Africa, and to also start thinking about what kind of systems do we actually need to improve people's lives, which is what democracy was always meant to do. And so as Joe Biden has won, the South African president had a call with him last night, which he tweeted about today. And I think that for South Africa, it's been a very positive thing for Joe Biden to win this election. I do think that we're now starting the hard work of defining democracy and good governance as separate from the United States model. So we need to decouple democracy and good governance from the United States.